Hey, what's up everybody? So today I want to talk about Saudi Arabia and why I believe that Saudi Arabia is an ISIS that has made it. Now, for those who don't know about Saudi Arabia is a theocratic authoritarian monarchy that is controlled by a royal family who use a extreme version of Sunni Islam called Wahhabism to maintain power over their country. And Saudi Arabia, despite what a lot of people may believe, is basically the Middle East version of North Korea. A lot of their citizens, or especially women, basically have no rights. The country is governed by Sharia law, which is laws that are based off the doctrine of the Quran and the Hadiths, and a lot of people or the people in that country are very oppressed. And due to Saudi Arabia having one of the, I would say it is the world's largest oil reserves, they are basically allowed to get away with whatever. The United States has Saudi Arabia as one of our top allies, despite the fact that 19, I think out of the 21 or so hijackers during 9/11 were from Saudi Arabia. And there's been new documents that have been released stating that Saudi Arabia is indirectly responsible for 9/11. They funnel money through various organizations and charities or whatever, and they fund terrorism. And the reason for that is because since their country has such a huge they have such a huge amount of wealth inequality, and in order for them to maintain control over the country, what the rulers of Saudi Arabia do is they will send their rebellious youth or citizens abroad to be terrorists in other places, and that's been documented as such. And the problem that I have with Saudi Arabia is that it's hypocrisy for the United States to say that we are against ISIS while at the same time give billions upon billions upon billions of dollars to this country that, just in a recent case with Yemen, they are intentionally bombing civilian targets in Yemen. That is a fact. That is, it's not a conspiracy. It's the truth. They are targeting civilian, heavily populated areas, and the casualties have been catastrophic. But a lot of Americans feel that, it's like, oh, those are our allies or whatever. And I would honestly have to say that the reason we don't criticize them or try to lay sanctions on them is because of the oil. It's just that's the reason why they're able to get away with so much. For instance, in Saudi Arabia, if you're an atheist and you speak out against Islam, or actually no, if you're just an atheist in general, you're considered a terrorist. I can't go to Saudi Arabia because I don't believe in magical fairy tales from the desert, so I'm automatically a terrorist. It's like, I can't tell you how ironic that is. And then also, Saudi Arabia is on, I think it's the UN's board for human rights, and it's just blows my mind away how this country in particular, and I'm not saying America's perfect, but we're nowhere near as bad and fucked up as Saudi Arabia, is able to, call the shots on who's good and who's bad. It's like giving Heinrich Himmler, or what's the Mengele, oversight of ethics in medicine. Yeah, that's the Nazi doctor who did all those experimentations on people, and it's like giving him responsibility over a medical ethics board. It just blows my mind away. And also, there's a in prison individual that I also want to mention. His name is Raif Badawi, who ran a liberal blog in Saudi Arabia, objectively criticizing the government of Saudi Arabia, and he was thrown into prison and they were giving him lashes. Very few countries in the world still whip people when they commit crimes. And also in Saudi Arabia, if you are caught, you know, for doing witchcraft, they will behead you. You know, this is a very, very primitive culture with a shit ton of money. You know, it's like they have all this money, but they don't know how to act. You know, it's like if you guys ever watched the movie Paid in Full. I don't know if you guys ever watched that movie, but basically there's this guy who's a drug dealer. He makes a lot of money, and you know he acts like a buffoon with all his money. And the one guy who runs a legitimate dry cleaner business, you see, that's the problem with him. He has all that money. He doesn't know how to act right. You know, and that's how Saudi Arabia is. You know, they behead people. You know, women are, you know, they're basically treated like animals. You know, it's like if a woman wants to go outside, she needs to have a permission slip from her male relative in order to go outside the house. That's how restrictive Saudi Arabia is. You know, if a woman, or actually it's illegal for women to drive in that country. And that's another thing too, is like the people who are in charge of Saudi Arabia are so insecure about themselves that they want to be so controlling over their women that they will force them to stay in the house because they're scared that, you know, their woman might want to leave them because they're pieces of shit. I mean, it's just it just disgusts me how we give so much money to these people who, you know, it's like they do things that if any particular group in the world would do, you'd label them as terrorists. And also, Saudi Arabia, they're also going after private citizens who make the comparison that Saudi Arabia is just like ISIS. So for me making this video, you know, I might get a message from the government of Saudi Arabia saying that, oh, you know, we're going to try to sue you for speaking the truth. But you know what? Fuck them. You know, it's like they don't have no authority over me whatsoever. And you know, and you know, once again, I am an atheist, so to me, all the religion is nonsense. You know, it's whether you follow Christianity, which is, you know, batshit crazy, or you follow Islam, which is really batshit crazy. You know, like Islam, for instance, you know, they follow a guy named Muhammad who married a 6-year-old and had sex with her when she was 9 years old. Now, that's a pedophile and that's a child molester in my book, but I think, what is it, like 1 billion people follow this guy. You know, and there's an argument to be made to whether or not Jesus was a real person, but with Islam, we know that Muhammad was a real person because he conquered pretty much, or him and then his descendants conquered everything from the Arabian Peninsula through Persia, through North Africa, and then they got turned back, I want to say, after they conquered Spain, they got turned back in France. And, you know, that's how we know that the general or the warlord of Muhammad was a real person. But, you know, Saudi Arabia, I don't know why. Well, actually I do know, because of the oil, but it's just, to me, a hypocrisy that I wanted to point out in this video. And thank you guys for watching. If you have watched this entire video up until this point, I appreciate it. I'm constantly trying to make videos talking about an assortment of issues around the world, because, you know, I think this is how you say the quote: an injustice an injustice somewhere is an injustice or a threat to justice everywhere. I messed that quote up, but you guys know what I'm talking about, and that's something that I think highly of. So thanks for watching. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below, and have a nice day. Peace.